off the cult of R-O-N-R. Ooh, have I talked much today? Megastream. But then I went to read my emails. So, we talked before about the quote unquote code of ethics that is being proposed. And I notice I have a weird little lag here. I don't understand why. But anyway, that was being proposed by Ken Moment. There is something I want to make abundantly clear here. And I can't decide if I want my glasses on or my glasses off. But please always remember these are participatory shows, and I love your comments. And of course, super chats are always welcome. And super chats on any Pink Flame of Liberty show do go to support my campaign. So I want to make it abundantly clear. I don't think Ken has any bad motives in proposing this. In fact, I think he's coming from a good place. But as I said before, good intentions pave the way to hell. And there is nothing good about this proposal. Absolutely nothing. And I know I've went over it a lot before, but it bears repeating. So I am going to repeat it because it bears repeating. But where we're at right now is Ken has actually started to ask for co-sponsors for this. It's funny. When I read the Code of Ethics, quote unquote, and I'll talk about why it's abhorrently unethical, there was only one thing I liked about it, and that was it prohibited LNC members from holding office in a state affiliate party. I think that's a good improvement, a very good improvement. You want to hear something funny? The LNC members, now that this has been brought up for sponsorship, they loved everything about the speech code. The one part they don't like is that the prohibition against holding office in an affiliate party. So the one thing I thought was the only redeeming quality in this draconian, nightmarish, dystopian speech code bullshit is the one thing they don't like. Figures, right? Oh my goodness. So why do I say this quote unquote code of ethics is unethical? First of all, it's not a code of ethics, it's a speech code. It's a speech code. To call it ethics would indicate that those who don't agree with it are unethical. First item in this speech code is treat all persons with dignity and respect. I'm going to go Godwin on you. If Hitler were still alive today, I would not treat him with dignity or respect. And that is not unethical. In fact, it's unethical to demand that I do so. And as I used as an example before, someone who literally committed SA on a literal infant, because there are such sick people out there, I would not treat such person with dignity or respect. In fact, that's the only type of person, like on a literal frickin' baby. Yeah, wood chipper time. To say unequivocally, treat all persons with dignity and respect is an unethical statement. And to put that into a code of ethics is saying that anyone who disagrees with what I just said or what he just said, one of us is unethical, not even making it a difference of opinion. That is abhorrent. Further, that is so subjective. We've already seen how things can be abused. Lastly, this is the LNC sticking its fingers into this convention selection process once again. Because what can be easily argued is this is our policy. Any person who is running who doesn't agree with it, like, say, the fraudulently removed secretary, shouldn't be eligible. You shouldn't vote for her because she doesn't agree with this policy we shoehorned in right before the convention. Anything the LNC does that seems to salt the election soup is unethical. It would be absolutely unethical for them to pass this policy. Now, I think it's actually unethical for the LNC, any LNC, this one or the next one or the one following it, to impose these kinds of requirements on any future LNC. If this LNC wants to pass this, if Ken Millman, who I adore and do not believe has any bad motives in proposing this, wants to pass this, make a provision in it that says that this provision expires with each LNC term and but must be renewed if it's to be continued at the post-convention meeting of each LNC. So that way each LNC has to agree to it. But they're trying to impose their super prudish speech codes on future LNCs. Yes, a future LNC can repeal it. They shouldn't have to repeal it. These kinds of voluntary behavior modification rules should have to be agreed upon. They should not be opt out, they should be opt in. This is part and parcel. A dying LNC in the last months of its doomed reign trying to do this is just absolutely vile. And I hope the next LNC immediately repeals it if it passes. Or if they want to engage in some kind of speech code, make it imposed only upon them. That's fair. That would be completely fair. And it would have to pass by more than a majority, I would hope. But I'm not even sure I would say that's completely fair now that I'm thinking about it, but it would certainly be more fair than what they're doing now. But I've been thinking more about the part that I liked, saying that LNC members could not serve on an affiliate board. And while I do like that provision, I don't think it's in order. I don't think that the LNC can oppose additional disqualifiers for office that aren't in the bylaws in a policy manual. I think that has to be a bylaws provision. And I would vote for it as a bylaws provision. I support it. I think technically, though, it's out of order in the policy manual, which I probably shouldn't say because perhaps somebody will raise that on the LNC and then they'll vote for the speech code. But you want to know what? These people are going to do what they're going to do anyway. They've already proven that they're censorious anti-free speech advocates, unless it's convenient to them. But this is just so seriously alarming. And something else that's very, very seriously alarming is that there's some bylaws proposals coming out of this bylaws committee, which are truly frightening. And they never invited our party parliamentarian to review them yet. They've had nearly a year's worth of meetings, and they haven't yet asked for the parliamentarian's input. That is insane. That is crazy pants. I have a comment I need to put on my old lady glasses to see it because I'm on my tiny little laptop. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, JJ. JJ said the LNC cannot create any additional requirements to office. That's what I was thinking. And while I support this requirement, I just don't think they can do it. And I would encourage somebody to move this from the floor or for the next bylaws committee or this bylaws committee. But this bylaws committee is too busy trying to make the vice chair and chair paid positions, restructure the LNC, get rid of Robert's Rules of Order, just all kinds of crazy shit. You know, I hope they have some good proposals amongst all the bad ones. And I'm glad the platform committee report is first because I think this bylaws committee, I said this in Cult of RONR, but I don't expect everyone to listen to a 3-hour show. I hope, I'm glad the platform committee is going first because this bylaws committee, I am convinced, is absolutely going to inflame the delegates. And if the platform committee went after them, we would be the victims of that inflammation. Meanwhile, we're going first, which I'm glad because wowzer. But I can't believe that the one thing that I thought was the only redeeming thing of this speech code, falsely called a code of ethics, is the one thing that Susan and John and Richard so far oppose. And not because of the procedural issue that the LNC can't create additional requirements for office. They don't think that should be a requirement at all. So I guess they have no problem at all with the national chair being the state chair of the second largest affiliate in the country, as if the interests will never conflict. And I support that requirement, even though it could potentially affect me. If I were reelected, as I hope I am, I would have to resign from the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And I'm okay with that. As long as it's required on everybody, I'm okay with that. Just like I said I would go to California and vote myself out of membership, that I didn't think that they should accept out-of-state members, and they did, so I was an out-of-state member solely for the purpose of going to their convention if a bylaw amendment was ever proposed to exclude out-of-state members to vote for my own exclusion. And the same thing in Pennsylvania. I'm a Pennsylvania member, and I hope they propose a bylaws amendment to stop having out-of-state members, and as an out-of-state member, I will vote for it. So anyway, whew, just the irony, just the absolute clueless irony. And Ken, you really need to rethink this. As I said, I don't doubt your motives. I will always adore you. Isn't that song, I Will Always Love You? Said, I'm not going to sing, will always adore you. But this is a monumentally, abysmally bad idea, and you should drop it. Or, as the meme goes, it's bad, and you should feel bad for proposing it. All right, everyone. That was just the short little show I wanted to do. I might do a history show later. It depends on how tired I am with everything else I have to do, but I wanted to cover this right away because just when I think this LNC can't get any worse, they say, hold my beer. So I don't want to say this has got to be the lowest because I'm sure there's even lower to come. You know, you would hope that in 3.5 months they couldn't do much damage. Nah, this LNC is little overachievers when it comes to doing damage. Dave Davis says maybe they can have out-of-state members as non-voting members. That's not really a membership then. Membership implies all the rights of membership. Anyone could be a donor. A non-voting member is otherwise known as a donor. And I've donated to other, state parties multiple times. And so they don't need an allowance for that. That's what a non-voting member is. It's a donor. And I don't mind donating to other affiliate parties. I've done so multiple times. And usually the reason to be, we don't charge for membership in Colorado. We don't have dues. We're one of the few states that does not have dues. The requirement to be a member in Colorado is that you be a resident of Colorado and a registered libertarian. Now, that causes some issues. A, funding issues. B, we have no control over who our members are. Anyone can register to be a libertarian, whether they're a libertarian or not. It sets the party up for an actual literal hostile takeover, not from a caucus we don't agree with. But there's nothing stopping a bunch of Democrats or Republicans from registering libertarian and flooding our convention. So I do believe we need dues in Colorado. And I think that's on the radar for the next bylaws committee. I think perhaps we should have 2 levels of membership. But in order to be a voting delegate at our convention and a voting national delegate, that you have to be a dues-paying member of Colorado, and also in order to be on the board of directors. and that all the other rights of membership, such as to attend meetings, to submit proposals to the board, and any other benefits we may correct, to get the newsletter, things like that would be available to all members, whether they are dues paying or not. But I do think we need dues, and most state parties are $25 a year, and that is what I would suggest for Colorado. I don't know whether that would ever pass. I would also not be opposed for povertarians to have an optional volunteer hours requirement. So $25 or X number of approved volunteer hours, something like that. Because I don't believe in creating financial barriers. See the other comment. Says, "In Iowa, the requirement to be a voting delegate is registered Libertarian, and you had to have voted in the Iowa caucus." I don't even we don't have caucuses like that here in Colorado, so I don't know what that means, to be honest with you. But I don't like we don't know who our members are, really. I mean, we can get the list of registered Libertarians from the Secretary of State, but we have 48,000, I think, registered Libertarians. We're lucky if 100 people show up at convention. Those 100 people that show up at convention, those are our real members. 48,000 is on paper. And we have no idea who they are. We have their name. We have their address. We don't have their email address. We don't have their phone number. They might not even know there's a state party. Like, there's just this big disconnect that I think is a real, real problem. So, I do not like our membership structure here in Colorado. At one point, minor parties, I think, were prohibited from charging dues, and that's why we were set up that way, but it's not in the minor party law right now. Okay, so JJ says the caucus would be like a primary. See, in Colorado, okay, I take that back. We did have voting by caucus, but they didn't call it caucus, they just called it a convention. So, they put caucus/convention, and for the major parties, they got rid of that, um, and now they have to have primaries. So they have nominations by primary, and, um, minor parties can opt out, so we opt out and have nominations by convention. I would have a problem with having a requirement that you voted in the previous convention or primary, because I think the right to vote entails the right not to vote, and as libertarians, I don't think compelled voting in order to have rights is a good idea. That's just me personally. Um, I don't know. But funny enough, though, considering we don't have dues, we've never I'm not gonna say we have enough money to do everything we wanna do, we certainly don't. I'm doing a live stream, Wayne. But we haven't ever been, like, close to 0 or anything like that either, so that's also a very good sign considering all of our donations are completely, voluntary. I mean, dues are voluntary too, but, I mean, we don't have any mandatory payments. Abstaining, though, is doing something as well. JJ said the person could always abstain. I think libertarians have a right to refuse to even recognize the process. We made this argument, in fact, the national LP made this argument in Maine because Maine had a requirement in order to maintain your registered voter status as a registered libertarian, is you had to vote, I think, in the last election or at least in one of the last 2 elections, and a lot of people were getting dropped, and we won that lawsuit. Yeah, now we can collect dues, though. Yeah, Dave Davis. I could be mistaken about that too, but that was my understanding because we used to have dues before Dave Aiken of Colorado got us ballot access and got the current minor party law passed. And when that went into effect, we dropped dues, and I think that's why, but this is going back 15 years, way, way before my time. Dave Davis says, "I know a few registered libertarians that don't vote. So do I." One of the former state chairs of Colorado was a non-voting anarchist, but he was a registered libertarian. Um, but he would write across his ballot, "I don't consent to rulers," and send it in. And it doesn't count. That's defacing it. I think it's probably technically illegal, but that's what he used to do. So we have plenty of non-voters. I know that may seem strange, not for libertarians, though. All right, this is going a bit afield. Not that I mind, but I just wanted to get that message out there about what our merry band of LNC fools are doing right now. Nothing should surprise me, but I still remain capable of being surprised. All right, I'm going to get going, and maybe I will see you later. Love you.